Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am the one and only, the Boxed Award-winning The Boxed. Now, as most of you have probably figured out by now, I am a bit of a wrestling fan. And April 8th this year is WrestleMania 34. And the past few years in particular, it's been more and more difficult for me to keep interest in the WWE product. Now granted, part of it has to do with the past few years, me just not having had much of a TV. A lot of what I do is on my computer. You know, that's how I keep up on things, and most nights I'm at work, and most Mondays, and then Tuesdays I'm either at work or at karaoke, and I'm not really keeping up as much as I used to on Raw or SmackDown. But even before that, I was finding that I just don't have that much interest anymore in specifically WWE. Like, obviously, I still go to the local shows like All-Star Wrestling, Elite Canadian Championship Wrestling, and so forth. But it's been harder for me for a lot of different things. You know, like, I remember back to when I was a kid and you had all these really over-the-top cartoony characters. You know, you had like the Ultimate Warriors, you had the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hogan Warrior. You had guys like Jake Snake Roberts, who is one of the best talkers to ever get into the ring. You had all these guys that you loved to boo, like the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, you know, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper. Well, he was on would be on both sides of the fence, but there were all these. You had all these characters, and they didn't need to do these things where they jumped off like 20-foot ladders or do that many dives. That, with the odd exception like Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Because you had that character, you had those characters to draw you in. And then even when we got to the Attitude Era, even when they started doing a lot more of the over-the-top stunts, like Edge doing a spear off of Jeff Hardy at TLC, when Foley got thrown off the cell at Hell in a Cell, you still had these interesting, compelling characters. Like I mentioned Edge, I mentioned Mick Foley as Mankind, and Cactus Jack, and Dude Love. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin, you had The Rock. You had these guys who had characters, who had charisma, and it felt like the matches meant a lot more back then than they do today. You know, it's hard for me to get interested in like a Brock Lesnar match or this guy's match or John Cena match or whatever, you know. It's hard for me to think of what made me a wrestling fan as a kid. You know, it's like you hear about these people who are such diehard fans, and part of it is like just becoming more and more of a habit. So I started thinking, well, what are some things that made me a wrestling fan? You know, why did I stick through it for so many years? Like, why am I still going to shows? So I just started randomly thinking about memories, and I think you probably saw this one in my hand. I was switching through some DVDs that I have over here. You know, like I remember showing you some of my DVDs a few years ago, and I have the Summerslam Anthology set. This is volume 1. Each volume is like a 5-disc set, where this one has like SummerSlam's 1988, 89, 90, 91, and 92. And volume 2 has 93 through 97, and so forth. And there's like 4 volumes. So it goes up to 2007. So I plopped in. I remember as a kid, I had the VHS of SummerSlam 91. So, since obviously I don't have my TV hooked up, my TV hooked up out here, so like it's probably my TV sitting in my storage unit, and my VCR is too. So I have my DVD set here. So I plugged it in, and oh, I am so glad I did. Oh, so like, I just wanted to do like an impromptu review after watching it over again. And oh, this is what I miss about pro wrestling. It's like, first off, the commentary team. Like, any of you who are fans who have come in, say, the past 5, 10 years, I honestly feel so bad for you because you never heard like JR and Jerry Lawler at their best. And then even in SummerSlam 91, you had Roddy Piper, you had Gorilla Monsoon, you had Bobby Heenan. Oh, the chemistry there was top notch. You had Bobby Heenan taking swipes at the baby faces, like when the match made in heaven. Oh, Macho Man's tying the knot tonight, but that knot's going to be a noose, and he's going to hang himself. You know, all those jokes about marriage and being tied down to one woman. It's like, and then the IC belt match is like, I heard a rumor that Bret Hart's parents ran away from home. That's just a rumor I heard. Wait, what was that? It was also on Piper. Your parents wrapped your lunch in a road map. Oh, just these little digs that Bobby Heenan was making. He was a phenomenal heel commentator. And then you'd have Gorilla and Piper just ragging on him, like, will you stop? I'm gonna deck you. Oh, and then for the wedding, it's like, okay, what kind of blue tag special is Miss Elizabeth's coming out in? And then Piper wanted to beat him so bad for that. Oh, I miss that shit. You know, the commentary was phenomenal. You got all this. You have that one guy who could just get on your nerves and was standing up for the heels. Oh, it was. The commentary helps make a show so good. And then the match, it was one of those ones where there was actually pretty much something for everyone. It wasn't a perfect show or the best SummerSlam ever, but this is the stuff that I remember being like one of the most well-rounded SummerSlams you could imagine. Like, you had the 6-man tag match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the British Bulldog, and the Texas Tornado versus Power and Glory and Warlord. And, you know, you look at this opening 6-man tag match, and it's sad that there's 3 of them are dead, you know. British Bulldog died, Texas Tornado died, Kerry Von Erich died actually like 2 years after this event. And then Hercules also died a while ago, back in I think like 2004. So yeah, half the competitors in this match are gone. And this was only like not even 27 years ago, and these are guys who are in their like 20s and 30s. So it's one of those harsh awakenings about how they treated their bodies back then and the toll that the job takes. And it's like, yeah, I know they chose to do that, but you don't, no matter what career you go into, You don't go into it saying, "Oh, I only want to live until I'm 40 or 50." No, no one says that. I don't care what profession you chose. And then you had the Intercontinental title match with Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, and most fans know the story about Mr. Perfect and his bad back. But he wanted to put Bret Hart over and pass the belt on to him, and they put on a great match. This certainly would go down as one of the better SummerSlam matches of all time. And again, another match where half the competitors are dead. Mr. Perfect died a long time ago. And it's just one of those ones where this is one of those matches that was just well done. I do, however, feel bad also for the photographer who collided with Bret Hart during the match, where Mr. Perfect just slingshots him off the ropes and Hart goes into the barricade and the photographer gets sandwiched between the two. But yeah, the only thing that I would particularly complain about, or I would, is how quickly Perfect tapped. But again, anyone who's been in the sharpshooter will tell you how much pain it puts you back through. And again, like I mentioned, Perfect had already gone into the match with a bad back, and this match was really above and beyond what you would have expected for a guy in his condition. And then you had the Natural Disasters and the Bushwhackers between just having a pretty standard tag match. But again, this is I was talking about the characters, and the Bushwhackers had that really over the top in a good way character. They're walking around going and they had a bit where they would lick the fans' foreheads, and it's one of those ones where they had that energy, or they had that gimmick. People will likely remember them as the Sheep Herders, because apparently that's when they did their best work. But I only remember them from WWE as the Bushwhackers. And they eventually did get into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame a few years ago, and I know one of them's not doing too well. So he was out there on crutches. So yeah, you see how much this business does to you. But yeah, it's just to see them go at it and have a fairly fun match. And of course, the Steamboat's team, Steamboat, Bulldog, and Tornado won the first match, 6-man tag. And like I mentioned, Bret Hart won the Intercontinental Championship. That was his first singles title reign, after 2 tag title reigns with Jim the Anvil Neidhart as part of the Hart Foundation. And the Natural Disasters won their tag match. If you haven't seen them, the Natural Disasters were basically even bigger than me. Earthquake was well over 450 pounds, and Typhoon, I think, was in the upper 300s. So yeah, it's basically what you would expect. You had that little bit of offense from the Bushwhackers, but for the most part, Natural Disasters actually were fairly dominant. After that, you had the $1 Million title match. Ted DiBiase was up against Virgil. Now, for those who remember the storyline, you had Virgil being Ted DiBiase's bodyguard / servant / butler or whatever. So DiBiase being the corporate greed guy, he would have Virgil do all these embarrassing things and clean the fungus between his toes, pick stuff up in the middle of the ring for him because he said so. And then it was Virgil winning the $1 Million belt was what the storyline called for, even with sensational Sherry jumping in and whacking Virgil with her purse, or her loaded purse. So she got kicked from ringside and the match went on, and yeah, it was basically what the storyline called for: Virgil to win the belt and be a millionaire for however long he had it. So yeah, him and DiBiase, both senior and junior, are the 3 people to have ever held the $1 million belt. Oh, and then this one was one of the highlights in terms of just like the entertainment value was of the repercussions of this match was off the easy. It was a jailhouse match between Big Boss Man and the Mountie. Now, this was like a law enforcement match where you had the Big Boss Man as the cop, as the American cop, and the Mountie as the Canadian cop. So, of course, Madison Square Garden, the Canadian cop is the foreign law enforcement, the foreign cop is going to be the bad guy. So you have the Big Boss Man go over. It was a pretty standard match, nothing really that special in it for either one. Again, the commentary was great. It's like, oh yeah, like he didn't talk about, oh, it's not like he's a Harvard business graduate or anything like that. Talking about how, oh, Big Boss Man's gonna need cigarettes so he can bribe the officers tonight. Oh, just I miss that stuff so much. And then when the Big Boss, and now the jailhouse match, the loser had to spend the night in jail. That was a stipulation. So when Big Boss Man won, you spent the rest of the night having vignettes between the two of them, or between Mountie and going to jail, and he's getting pictured, and he's like, no, you can't do this to me, I want my phone call. And then it's like getting the picture taken, it's like, so I heard the Big Boss Man whipped your butt. What? Click. Oh, how dare you? And you're getting fingerprinted. You want the finger? Here's the finger. Oh, that was just so much fun. Oh, the entertainment value. It's like anyone who only cares about match quality, it's not the only thing. It's about entertainment. Get your entertainment from all around. Have fun with it, people. And then you had the tag team championship match, Nasty Boys versus Legion of Doom. LOD won the tag titles in this one. It was a street fight match, so that meant no disqualifications, no countouts, just pinfalls or submissions. And it was basically what you would expect. Both teams were known for. You were not going to get a technical. You're not going to get like a technical showcase between the two teams. You're going to deal with a lot of like punches and all that stuff. A lot of brawling, so it's about what you'd expect. Nothing overly spectacular, but also nothing. But it's not like they were doing a whole lot of botches either. And then what followed that one up was Erwin R. Shyster versus Big the Hammer Valentine, which is certainly a lot more likely what you would expect to be a technical showcase. And LOD won the tag titles in the previous match. And then in this one, it was Erwin R. Shyster going over as he reversed the figure 4 leg lock into a small package. And I don't recall anything really of consequence coming out of that, but it was just there. And then you had the match made in hell with this was a handicap match between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior going up against Sergeant Slaughter, Colonel Mustafa, and General Adnan. Now, what the special referee was Sid Justice, and what they were working up towards was whether Sid Justice would be able to call it down the middle, or if he was going to join up with Sergeant Slaughter. Like they had stopped him outside the hall, and they're trying to like offer him a position in his in his core. So the match happens, and you have Hulk Hogan pin Sergeant Slaughter after using some powder and then the leg drop, while Ultimate Warrior chased away Adnan and Mustafa with his steel chair. Now, Ultimate Warrior, he had actually ended up demanding something like $500,000 from Vince McMahon as either $500,000 or $550,000 because he felt like he was underpaid from WrestleMania. So he basically said, "Okay, either pay up or I'm not performing at SummerSlam." So Vince McMahon's like, "Oh shit, I advertised it, so I have to. So I have to pay up." And then then Vince McMahon fired Ultimate Warrior right when he walked through the curtain after Warrior chased Adnan and Mustafa away. So at least that's the reports that I've heard based off of the DVDs I've watched and the internet. So you take it for what it's worth. You know, the internet's the internet. So that's just how it goes. But that's the story that I've heard behind that. And then, of course, you had that final bit with the Mountie, and they could not do this today. All of the social justice warriors out there would basically be all over them. So, if the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal has shown us anything, they would not be able to do this last bit. Where you have the Mountie, he's in the cell, he's like, let me out of here! And then you have the gay prisoner. Don't you just love the way leather feels against your body? Oh! You cannot do that nowadays. It's like, this is what I miss. There's a lot of things that have cut down on how much fun this stuff is. Some of it more justifiable than others. But oh, how I miss wrestling being this fun. Oh. And then you had the wedding with the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. And say what you will. And this is probably maybe the only wrestling wedding that I've seen where it's been no shenanigans during the wedding. There were shenanigans after the wedding with The Undertaker and Jake the Snake Roberts and putting a snake inside one of the reception gifts. But the wedding itself, no one interrupted. And remember, you want to rag on this main eventing WrestleMania? It's come on, all the years that they were actually together in real life too. So you have this bit where Macho Man was as a heel, was really abusive towards her, verbally and controlling. And because the thing with pro wrestling is that guys who are genuinely talented, like Macho Man, you have to try really hard to keep heat. If you're not doing anything bad for a while, say 6 months, 9 months, a year go by, and you're not doing anything really obnoxious or bad, the fans get over it and you stop being a heel and the fans will just cheer you, so you need that heat magnet. And Miss Elizabeth was a great magnet, because she was this sweet, beautiful woman who the nicest possible person you could imagine. And here she was with this guy who was being so possessive and controlling and a total jerk. So basically anything that, if she's just at ringside watching the match, and all he has to do if the fans start cheering him is that, yeah, you stay over there, I'm the show. That sort of thing. The fans hated him for it. And she was just magnificent heat seeker for him. Because she just had to be there. And, like, she loved him. So all the shit that she took from him and was still there for the Macho Man. And to finally have it culminate with him realizing how bad he was to her on screen. And like, no, it's like, she loved me. I have to marry this woman. That's like the only thing I can do now. And it's like, anyone who wants to rag on this or rag on me for seeing it this way, screw you. This was years building up. Another thing I missed about pro wrestling is that it's just like, there's so much need for instant gratification, where you're just like, maybe looking 1 month or 2 months into the future on so many different things, and now, and like you remember back in these days where like you would build up for months and months and months to get to that payoff, and that's what made the payoff so satisfying. Yeah, and it's just so much stuff that I miss. But I do not regret going back and watching SummerSlam 91. This is why I'm a fan. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back, look through a few more of my DVDs, and see if I can find anything else to help me remember what made wrestling so fun and awesome for me. Till next time, folks, I am the Naboxid award-winning Naboxid. And I hope you enjoyed this. I sure as hell did.